edition of the story behind the story. Yeah, golly, computers, golly, I know we need to have them to do the show, perhaps, but constant battle keep computers running to keep the show going, and it's so difficult to do it on the phone lines. But it's possible. It's possible to do it. Oh yeah, it's amazing that people are so blind. It really, truly is. What do you expect when media is so controlled and people just trust? Take the easy way. I mean, that's really what it's about, taking the easy way out. Don't have to take responsibility for truly understanding. Yeah, so that's the way it is. We have more to report on concerning the Iowa caucus. How does this happen, folks? Just ask the question, how does it happen? Now we see that Rick Santorum handily won the Iowa caucus, yet really there's not much being talked about as to how it happened. How in the world did this occur? And who was behind it? My guess is because it's been so quietly dropped. Just here in the Salt Lake Tribune newspaper, there's just a little blip. Who won in Iowa? ? Quote, it took Iowa Republicans 16 days to decide they couldn't tell for sure who won the Iowa caucuses, despite their earlier announcement that Mitt Romney had narrowly won. Well, what's the problem here, folks, is that, that give, in the media at least, it anointed Mitt Romney as the man that's going to carry the nominations. People just take it for granted now that he's it because of a very narrow victory in Iowa. Now it shows out that it's not at all. It's not at all the case. Quote, the non-conclusion highlights the potential pitfalls with, get this, party-run presidential nominating events. Let's discuss this today. And if you want to weigh in on it, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take your calls. I have an open line today, Friday. This really ought to tell you how the process really operates. It's all show. It's a show and tell. But in the end, the person that has the most influential Edomite Jewish connections will carry the day. There's no doubt about that, folks. Whether it's Newt Gingrich and his connections to Opus Dei, the conversion of him, so-called, to Catholicism from, well, I guess it's more honest to be a insider in Opus Dei and the secret society than it is to be a wolf in sheep's clothing, born-again Christian, which is not true at all either. I mean, come on. This is the choice Americans have been given. I mean, come on. And Rick Santorum, he's sitting back, not able to gain the momentum he should have gotten from the Iowa victory. This blip in the paper again, quote, the final certified results announced Thursday in Des Moines by Iowa Republican Chairman Matt Strawn had Rick Santorum 34 votes ahead of Mitt Romney. Wow, that's quite a big difference. Where's the swing? But Strawn said the party cannot yet declare a winner. Why? Because the results are still incomplete. 8 of the state's 1,774 precincts had not reported their certified totals by Wednesday's 5 p.m. deadline. Santorum yesterday considered the announcement a victory, claiming there have been 2 contests. We won 1. Well, New Hampshire, again, is, what do you say when you have Mr. Gordon Gekko, Willard, and Romney having a residence there in New Hampshire? Mm-hmm. It stinks. Just flat out stinks that the caucus is so manipulated, so blatantly, such blatant vote fraud. I'm saying that people need to be arrested over this. And this needs to be front page news, not edited away, tucked away in some little minuscule little byline. This is a huge story. I mean, this is a major, huge story and part of this whole so-called election process. What a scam. What a joke. See, the whole nation watches the Iowa debates. Iowa will pick tone, will set the tone. Well, yeah, they surely did. They set the tone so it's all a scam. Can't trust a doggone thing with it. There are people coming forward saying that something's just very, very wrong. Well, no kidding. Look deeper to see what's really, really wrong. But you don't like what you see because it's not, use a Yiddish term, kosher. Stinks. It's a smelly herring somewhere in the garbage tank. One precinct again, let me just review what I talked about yesterday. Man named Edward True. What a great name. What a great name. Edward True. 28-year-old. Young man, I'm sure. Very, shall we say, naive. His Iowa precinct had 53 votes, Republican caucus votes. He counted the votes. He helped count votes. He tallied. He showed his own little handwritten tally note showing Rick Santorum with 21 votes and Mitt Romney 2 and Gingrich 6. So 29 of the 53 votes he personally tallied. And he knew that 53 votes in his precinct when he checked the final tally sheet, found there was huge 22 vote discrepancy. Romney was given in his precinct 20 more votes than he actually received. And then the national news media reports that Mitt Romney won Iowa by 8 votes. Folks, here is the bottom line. The Republican caucus, the party vote in Iowa, was manipulated. It was fraudulent, and Mitt Romney benefited from that fraud, no doubt about it. One precinct alone showed Romney receiving only 2 votes, where the official sheet showed him getting 22. Folks, the question is, who did this? Who did this fraud? Why? And will there be prosecution for it? Because I'm telling you, this is no small matter. It's no laughing matter. And it makes, again, my point. You just cannot trust the vote tallying process. This is, folks, get this straight. Please understand this. In Iowa, it's done the old-fashioned way. Okay, you go out and count the ballots. It's a small, relatively small, simple procedure. You don't utilize Diebold computerized voting machines, which a couple of $1 million highly placed will swing the vote tallies to you. And, but you see these computerized voting booths, they're secret. You don't really know how to vote, so you trust the computers. These computers that can easily be hacked by Khazarian Edomite program hackers, the best in the world, out of Tel Aviv, Israel. Wow. So, did they just make a topographical error? Did somebody just innocently put in 22 where it should have just been 2? No, folks. It wasn't a typographic error. Incredible. It's just flat out incredible to me. Now, the more I dig into this Alrit Gadish, you just don't get any more Rick Vitae of an insider. Not only an insider, folks, but when you're talking about everything that's wrong with the illegal and unethical, immoral wars in Iraq and Afghanistan. The people who profited from this, there's no bigger smoking gun than the venture capitalist tied to Orit Gadesh. 60 years old, and my goodness, you can't make a more prototypical wicked witch of the West, in my opinion. But again, it goes back to exactly who is Willard Mittens Romney. Who is this guy? Really, look at his history. I mean, and when you talk about inner circle of organized crime, when you talk about pedophiles and organized pedophile rings, some of the big smoking guns going to private boys' schools that are basically the breeding grounds of the elite blue bloods. We see that's exactly the history of Willard Mitt Romney. I pulled, I took German. I studied German in college, but I'm surely not fluent in German. So I know enough to be dangerous. But I followed the story of Orit Gadish, the daughter of a man named Falk Gadish. But you got to realize that they changed their name. Gadish, not their original name. Their original name was Grunfeld. Grunfeld. So you have to ask the question, why did they change their name from Grunfeld to Gadish? And when they emigrated to Palestine in 1939, why? Why did they go from Berlin to Palestine in 1939? And who was Grunfeld working for? Who was he employed by? And how, after changing his name, did he become the Israeli Army's first brigadier general? Well, there's a German book called the Das Linhaus Grunfeld. It's the story of the Grunfeld family. Wow. Wow. You're talking about family that is the prototypical. I mean, how can we say this without really? It's tough. It's a tough one. It's the prototypical wandering Jew, as Henry Ford declared it to be, an international Jew. I mean, we're talking about the connections to central banks, to blood ritual, blood atonements. I mean, there's blood talk about righteous blood being spilled, being shared. There's a family called the Crown family. Yes. The Crown family, closely tied to the nation state, so-called, of Israel, not the tribe of Israel. It's really basically the movers and shakers, the upper echelon, the top of the shark food chain, if you will, of the Mossad, the most ruthless military intelligence agency in the entire world. This is where you get Orit Gadish. Bain and Company, Gadesh, Mitt Romney are absolutely tied together with umbilicals. They're Siamese twins, if it's the best way to describe. The Boston Consulting Group, again, was where Mitt Romney shone, and of course his connections into Harvard Law School and Harvard Business School. His brotherhood with these individuals formed Boston Consulting Group. William Bain Jr., William H. Bain Jr., Bain and Company, based out of Boston, but has offices, folks, the following cities: Atlanta, Georgia; Boston, Massachusetts, of course; Chicago; Dallas; Los Angeles; New York City; Palo Alto; and San Francisco, California. Bain has made billions of dollars under the direction of Orit Gadish. Just in the year 2007 alone, they had net revenues of over $1.6 billion. Check out the curriculum vitae of Audrey, chairperson, the CEO, chief executive person of Bain and Company. Boston Magazine did an article on her. So I did a search. I pulled the Boston Magazine article. The article's just titled Power. Power, you see. Power. 100 women who run this town of Boston, Massachusetts. Here is what Boston Magazine wrote about Arit Gadish. Quote, she stands over 6 feet tall, heels. She worked in military intelligence in her native Israel. And she runs one of the world's largest, most elite, not semi-elite, most elite business consulting firms. She runs the business consulting firms. Her big hitter clients include De Beers, that's, again, the Jewish-run merchant class of South Africa. ITT, and Dell Computers. International Telephone and Telegraph, Dell Computers, all tied again to the Tel Aviv, Israel hub of internet connections and monitoring of emails and telephone connections worldwide, just like what they're monitoring right now with this radio show and why my computers are constantly hacked. I have no doubt about it. This is right in Boston Magazine. Quote, 12 years ago, Gadish succeeded Mitt Romney as head of what is commonly called, quote, the KGB of consulting firms. Why would they should be called? Why is it called KGB of consulting firms? What does a KGB mean? I mean, we're talking about industrial espionage. You know, euphemistically, people in the circles, some of the 99% of, let's basically say, Mitt Romney is Gordon Gekko of the movie Wall Street. Oh, that's giving Gordon Gekko a bad name. We're talking about the ultimate insider here, the KGB, so-called, of consulting firms. From Boston Magazine. Again, this is a positive article. They're singing her accolades. They're crowing about her prowess. Quote, given her connections to the governor, which is this time Mitt Romney, it was no surprise when he named her to his transition team. Gadish was one of only 2 Bostonians listed last time Fortune magazine published its female power list in 2000. Let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, here's where it stinks. Not only is Mitt Romney's power base, Israeli power base, inextricably tied to the computerized Diebold systems that can easily manipulate them. There is something that I I gotta say this. Please, ladies and gentlemen, think for yourself on this. And I don't know how many people are listening to this radio broadcast today, but I don't think it's nearly enough. Don't think it's nearly enough, because I'm going to tell you when we come back from break why in the world Iowa made this mistake, why they were able to officially announce to the nation and the world who won their caucuses 2 weeks ago. Don't go away. We'll be right back after these commercial breaks. This is the story behind the story, and this is the Micro Effect Radio Network. Stay tuned. Welcome back to the story behind the story. I want you to get your pen and papers out, because I want you to write this down and do your own homework like I have done and come to your own conclusions. It's something called Voxio, Voxeo, Voxio. This is a tally system for caucuses and elections. Now, we know that the Democrats use this extensively. We also now, again, it's clear that the people counting the votes in Iowa had to have some form of a tally system. Phone calls to the Republican Party of Iowa, they will not confirm nor deny they use Voxio. Somebody listening to this show maybe can try their best to confirm or deny exactly what. I made a few phone calls there. I wrote some names. I didn't get last names, but I did talk to 3 people there. Finally, Nicole Sizemore, the Iowa Republican Direct Communications. She's the person that handles media inquiries. I asked her, I says, who tallies the votes there? But for me to tell you, she was nervous, big time nervous, talking, scared, very much, voice shaking, nervous, not wanting to say the wrong things. I asked her if they use Voxio. She wouldn't tell me. I mean, it's a simple yes or no question. She said it was for security purposes. They didn't want to talk about security purposes. I guess that means the answer is yes, they do use Voxio. Why is this important, folks? I'll tell you why. Voxio is Israeli military intelligence. If you just go to any Google search engine, I'm going to tell you, just type in Voxio, Voxo, Voxio. Voxio Corporation, called IVR. Wikipedia, their entry under Voxio Corporation, quote, is a technology company that specializes in providing developmental platforms for unified customer experience, which is self-service, and unified communications. So here is the communications expert, right, of of Iowa, not affirming nor denying that they use Voxio. See, what Voxio does is it just basically all of the reporting precincts can basically enter in their 1,772 precincts. So they just tabulate and send in their official response, and Voxio is the platform that basically computes it all. Very simple. Just boop, 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 just punch it in. Voxio.com. Let's go again. Voxio is headquartered in Orlando, Florida, with main offices, quote, in Cologne, Germany, Beijing, China, London, the United Kingdom, and San Francisco, USA. Voxio, you see, is tied to NARUS Corporation, N-A-R-U-S, which again is a completely Israeli-run, Israeli military intelligence, Mossad front. Going on with the history of this in Voxio. Voxio's history there in Wikipedia. Voxio was founded by Jonathan Taylor and others in 1999 with the goal of making it easy for web developers to create telephonic applications. 2001, the company received around $40 million in investments from Crosspoint Venture Partners. Follow Crosspoint Venture Partners, the venture capitalist partners, and you, of course, see some links to Bain Capital, Venture Capitalists, the Mayfield Fund, and others. Quote, Voxio has grown its services through both internal development and acquisition. In October of 2005, Voxio acquired the Voice XML, which is a platform and, again, tabulation of votes. They've consolidated so many different companies since their inception. The acquisitions of Voice Objects, Cologne, Germany, a rich application development to Voxio's portfolio. These acquisitions were followed by others in May of 2009. Adhesion, the open source telephony framework, Adhesion, Motorola's Voice XML browser business, Clackpoint, 2010, etc., etc. So there you go. One of the amazing things, too, is the technologies of using phone services to manufacture voice. That can be amazing tool for framing individuals for crimes they didn't commit. You see, you want to really frame somebody. It's so easy to take a person's voice and make a smoking gun tape or whatever you need to have done. You know, you might even be able to frame somebody like Edgar Stone for plotting to assassinate his wife. Really didn't do it at all. Speech recognition, telemarketing, speech recognition softwares. All this is Voxio. Foxio Worldwide. Doesn't it make you feel great that this is, again, part and parcel now of Israeli military intelligence? Makes the world a better place, doesn't it? Makes the world a better place. So Nicole Sizemore couldn't confirm or deny because of so-called security reasons exactly what machine tallied caucus votes. She did say that the complete tally will be released to the media sometime this week, maybe yesterday, but it didn't happen because it's been put off another week. We'll see. We'll see what happened. But I mean, we need a full-scale, honest investigation of this. I mean, flat out. This telephonic vote counting system, if it's Voxio, and who put it in and why and how does it tie into either Santorum or Mitt Romney. I mean, come on. Rick Santorum on Meet the Press honestly said, yes, he would bomb Iran's nuclear reactors if elected president. He would have no hesitation in ordering the bombing or supporting Israel in it. And the same with Mitt Romney. Does 50% of Iowa's Republican Party, they truly want to wage another war in the Middle East? We talked about Brown family. Let's talk about this in depth. Lester Brown is his name. This fellow, you got to follow this guy out of whole family's operations out of Chicago and other places worldwide. Again, I had all this set up to come in today in the show to explain, and I'm sorry, my computer is just flat out seized up. So I'm going to be winging it here a little bit. Lester Crown, Chicago, multi-billionaire. Lester Crown from Chicago, net worth of around $4 billion. He is a former president and chairman of the board of the epitome of the military-industrialist complex company General Dynamics. He also has large holdings in Hilton Hotels, Maytag, owns a large portion of the Chicago Bulls basketball team and the New York Yankees baseball team. Lester Crown, Chicagoan, said, he was in 2008 strongly on board with fellow Chicagoan and lackey Barack Hussein Obama. Here's what Crown had to say in 2008, quote, Barack Obama has established a strong record as a true friend of Israel, a stalwart defender of Israel's security, and an effective advocate of strengthening the steadfast U.S.-Israeli relationship. publicly stating that Israel's right to exist as a Jewish state should never be challenged. See, Lester Crown is, got it, Khazarian. But guess who Lester Crown is fully supporting now? Completely, totally admit now. For Lester Crown and others like him, folks, the top issue on his agenda is Israel, Israel, Israel. He publicly said, quote, while my involvement in politics is motivated by a variety of issues, there is one issue that is central and fundamental, my deepest commitment to Israel and to a strong U.S.-Israel relationship that strengthens both Israel's security and its efforts to seek peace, unquote. The Atlantic magazine reported Israeli top general Amos Yadin flew into Chicago to have a summit meeting with Mr. Lester Crown. For the sole purpose to convince, to put whatever pressure they could on Barack Hussein Obama to attack Iran. Okay. This is April of 2010 now. And what happened? Yeah, the official log of the White House showed that Lester Crown, after meeting with Amos Yadin, went into the White House in April and there had a lengthy meeting with top Obama advisor Valerie Jarrett. At the same time, the Israeli newspaper Haaretz reported that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, this is an article in the Israeli newspaper Haaretz, Benjamin Netanyahu had, quote, applied hidden pressure on Obama, which came, quote, from Chicago. This was April 2010. Since Iran has not yet bombed, it's pretty clear that this pressure didn't mean much. That whatever Barack Hussein Obama, is or may be, one thing is certain, he has not allowed bombs to fall on Iran yet. Recently, Lester, the Jester Crown, asked about this meeting. Crown said, I still support the president, but I wish they, meaning his administration, was a little more outgoing. The way they have recently talked, I would feel more comfortable if I knew that they had the will to use military force as a last resort. You cannot threaten someone as a bluff. There has to be a will to do it. General Dynamics. You see, Lester Crown is, how in the world is this really to be top dog of General Dynamics? He's a defense contractor, folks. His stock options are worth much, much more. If he may get some millions of dollars every time war is declared and bombs fall. Okay? I mean, this is what it is. He's a billionaire, folks, one of the real power brokers behind Barack Hussein. Lester Crown ran a very, very successful October 1st, 2007 fundraiser, and it targeted directly Jewish, shall we say, Khazarian Edomite contributors across the country. He targeted him, and he says, the reason why he targets is he's our golden boy. He's directly supportive of Israel in every way. His solicitation of Jewish businesses and big money Israelis, quote, he sent out invitations, and on their invitation he read, quote, the purpose of the evening, the fundraising evening, is to show Barack how appreciative we are of his steadfast, honest, proud support of Israel. Folks, that's very words out of Lester Crown's own mouth. Let me emphasize, Lester Crown has not been elected to any public office. He is not part of any cabinet. He's appointed to pursue foreign policy on behalf of the government, but he hasn't been confirmed by any way by the United States Senate. But yet, money speaks, and he's the epitome of big business pulling strings. And when their voice is not listened to, and the support is thrown to another candidate, specifically whoever can make the biggest promise to bomb Iran. Santorum says this on Meet the Press, and Santorum's poll numbers jump like crazy. Go figure that. If Congress was truly honest, they'd subpoena this Jewish gangster, bankster, multi-billionaire and ask him to testify on the record about his communications with Yadin and the president and his advisors. See, another example, folks, of media bias. Come on, the presidential campaign contributors, the biggest mover and shaker behind Barack Hussein Obama's 2008 campaign, meeting with top Israeli generals and Netanyahu and others, and then trying his best to influence foreign policy to the tune of bombing another nation. But the big story, folks, is, again, nobody gets in the Oval Office without Lester Crowns and the Lester Crowns of the world, the banksters, the international Jewish banksters support. Flat out doesn't happen. That's why I'm saying, again, it's all a sham, folks. American-style so-called democracy, free elections, free votes, it's all a controlled sham, and here is the smoking gun to prove it. Iowans and New Hampshireites and South Carolinians, and they don't choose who will be president. It's the big billionaires of the world, the people that really are the puppet masters that determine who gets to choose. And doesn't really matter what you do in the voting booth, whether you pull a lever or punch a ticket. It doesn't matter. I'm not, again, this may appear to be absolute negativity, but until you absolutely determine the problem, you see, nothing ever changes. And part of making the correct determinations is figuring out really what's going on. And honestly, I mean, not just by opinion, but honestly looking at the record. We'll take a break. We'll come back top of the hour with America in Jeopardy. All right, ladies and gentlemen. I tell you, it's amazing. Yeah, let's do a little bit of America in Jeopardy. Let's see who was really watching, listening in the first hour, shall we? He is the president and CEO of General Dynamics Corporation, single biggest supplier of material and support for all things military. He is also rapid science. Indeed, that's the answer. What is the question? Who is Lester Crown? Lester Crown. Crown family. Susan Crown, Lester Crown. I mean, come on. You just got to keep your eyes open and look around. Now, people ask me all the time, why don't you support Ron Paul? I don't trust the man. I'm sorry. I just don't. I don't trust him because, he just says some of the right things, but then he's quirky. Coming out and saying that the official version of September 11th is correct. And then like I said and reported before, there's no doubt that Ron Paul and George Soros are connected. Just flat out, no doubt about it. The linking up with Ron Paul, the MoveOn.org organization, SEIU, the National Security Network, and others in this progressive, best described as a beast. What in the world is Ron Paul doing, lining himself with that? If Ron Paul was everything he said he was, he would out that group. He would come out against that group. But no, he's right in the bed with them. Doesn't matter, folks, what the man says, Jay Leno's show, or in the debates. He has the sound bites, but what is his actions? What he's really doing should mean a whole lot more than his rhetoric, but it doesn't seem to make that much. There are those that listened to the show last week or so when I exposed this. He says, well, it's just, again, partisan politics. He's reaching out. Well, come on. You don't reach out to the devil and go to his party and jump in bed with him. Just don't trust the man, and that's the big thing. I like what he has to say. Of course I do. I got to tell you, I like what Barack Hussein Obama had to say about anti-war, about promising to end the wars and bring the troops home. I liked what the man had to say about it, but what he has done speaks a whole lot louder than rhetoric, what he has to say. The bottom line, folks, is Ron Paul is nothing but what's called a shill. He's a steam valve. It gets the patriot Americans, the people that really want something conservative and strong. He brings them. He's their standard bearer, their flag bearer. But when it really analyze what he's doing, no, with a capital N-O. The bottom line, folks, call it a conspiracy theory or whatever if you want. And I don't care who. I mean, Ron Paul's supporters are so blind, they're so loyal that you say anything, even remotely derogatory about the man, and they want to stone you. My goodness, why are you so blind that you can't just see what this guy's doing? When George Soros pays for an ad, voting, it tells you a little bit about, a lot about. See, George Soros pays for an ad praising Ron Paul. And then Ron Paul puts George Soros' hand-picked men and women, his experts in charge of America's defense policy if he was elected president, puts him in charge of his campaign think tank. Hello, people. Oh, yeah, I've heard it all, folks. When I said these things, I had a few people, well, Ron Paul just doesn't know these connected to Soros. Oh, please. If he's that stupid, he shouldn't even be in Congress, much less running for president. Why do you give this man such defense? Why do you defend the indefensible? Is there a possibility that Ron Paul just flat out didn't know, was ignorant, and didn't bother to do his homework, his research, even a snippet of research on these individuals he's tabbed in to form his defense objectives, his defense policy objectives, his cutting of trillions of dollars budget? Well, there is a possibility. I'll give him that. But if so, I mean, that is another problem that he's not flat out not fit for the job of president, job he's running for. If you don't bother to do your basic homework, you have no business doing anything in the Oval Office. Give me a break, ladies and gentlemen. Those of you that may not have heard what I reported on this, let me bring it back to your knowledge. You see, Ron Paul has publicly in the debates, and still to this day, is saying, we need to completely cut out all of support to Israel, yada, yada, no more foreign alliance entanglements, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, again, I like that rhetoric. Of course, most Americans that are truly conservative like that rhetoric too, but they don't see deeper. They don't look deeper and understand that George Soros wants the complete gutting of America's power. I mean, the complete evisceration of America's preeminence and power as a Christian nation. And he's recruited Ron Paul to carry the flag. Ron Paul, Barney Frank have united and formed a task force affiliated with the Cato Institute. Ron Paul and Barney Frank have put a bunch of George Soros-funded think tank experts. You can't. Barack Hussein Obama could have done a better job of handpicking Soros's lackeys to run this dismantling of the U.S. military. See that, but that's. I don't want to look at it. The Ron Paul supporters are not asking these deep questions. This task force, the head of the task force, has communist ties to Alinsky. The task force is proposing cutting trillions of dollars out of the Pentagon, cutting nuclear deterrence, reducing the Navy fleet by 57 ships, including 2 carrier groups, retiring definitely 4 Fleet Marine Corps battalions, overall reducing the military by 200,000 personnel, cutting bases, chopping bases, cutting defense research by $50 billion over 10 years, and stopping health care benefits for members of the military. Again, folks, Ron Paul joined forces with Barney Nambleman, Mossad agent Barney Jewish Frank, Edomite Frank to slash military preparedness. But if elected, he'll put into place more rabid George Soros trolled puppets than Barack Hussein Obama ever did. That's what he is doing now and has done as Congressman Ron Paul. That in and of itself should be enough to get this man, for charges of, anti-American activities. Liberal as can be, and yet he claims to be this conservative flag waver. That's why I don't support Ron Paul, folks. Don't listen to what he is saying. Listen to what he is doing. Now, I'm 100% behind the strong military. Personally, I'm 100% against unnecessary wars and aggression, but I'm 1,000% for a strong defense, a defensive position, an honest position of strength. putting America first is never a problem. Money spent on defense, again, it's internal. If internal, not in wars and in Zionist idealists in foreign lands, but a strong defense makes a strong economy. It's a good thing. But doing it honestly and correctly is vitally important. George Soros needs to be flat out identified as the domestic agent of treason that he is. And because of that and his association with Barney Frank needs to be ousted from Congress immediately, and so does Ron Paul. And Ron Paul, Dr. Paul, all due respect, don't ever run for president again. You lying hypocrite. How about that, Ron Paul supporters? If you don't understand this, you just flat out haven't done your homework. And you're again sucking into that dry hole. Zionist stooges. Again, it just goes back to the point of what does Ron Paul do? He blinds the people by giving all of the right sound bites. Doing his job very well. He knows he's not going to be president. There's no way. There's no way that Lester Crown and the other people will vote for this guy, but they know he has a place. It's the Ross Perot. Keeps people engaged without really talking specifics. But in the meantime, while he's congressman, my goodness, he's doing everything possible to gut American power and nationalism. Yeah. And it's just amazing. The depths of deception we're facing here. And the whole story is, can you trust elections? No. No. The key issue in facing America and really the world in this year of 2012 is this issue of Iran. The Islamic Republic of Iran. Why are they so hated by Zionists and Israel? You say, why is it so important? Well, it's the same rhetoric really that led into the disruption of the world in World War II, the Zionist war strategy. It's this, Iran's the target of Zionists just the same way that organized Edomite, so-called Jewry, declared war on Germany in the early 1930s. The sanctions against Iran parallel the sanctions economically against Germany. This time, it's not just a simple war in Iraq. The players are so much stronger. It's going to be a flat-out disastrous event. Again, that's what these red Edomites want. The Crown family of Chicago have turned all their support to Mitt Romney. Barack Hussein Obama is flapping in the wind. Well, I'm busy working on this Illuminati card game. There's just so much there to show you. It's the more I dig into it and the more I follow the history, I just, my goodness, how in the world did this card game manufacturer know these things? I mean, it's beyond eerie. Is it possible he made up some fictional things and some body in government took them and has made the ideas a script? No, I don't think that at all. I think what's happened is, again, it's tied into the very same occult party line. You know, when you access demonic entities, when you access the dark side, there are others that are accessing the same source of infernal information. And when you access it and then you make a Dungeons and Dragons type of game to be played with it, and the truth that you have from your seances or whatever the heck you do as far as your accessing of the fallen angels, when you come out with the same plan as it's a long-term 25-year, 30-year plan, you're going to get visited by a Secret Service. You're going to get visited by agents of the Illuminati secret government to find out who leaked the information. Who was the Julian Assange of 1990, see? And how shocking it must have been to these Satanist Secret Service, these Illuminati kingpins, when they find out, oh my goodness, there was no leaking source. These guys just connected to the same demonic entities that are marching to our same tune. Shocking, isn't it? Henry Crown, Lester Crown. Henry's the old man. Lester and Susan Crown of Chicago. Check him out. Boy, talk about Red Edomite war profiteers. Henry Crown became very wealthy by providing munitions and other defense spending during World War II. Every war since Korea to Vietnam to everything, you name it, the Crowns are right in the middle of it. They're the very epitome of who President Eisenhower referred to as unwarranted influence and unseen pleasures. When he warned the American people in his final televised address to beware the military-industrialist complex. The kingpin on that food chain was Henry Crown. Their web, General Dynamics into DynCorp, into all military industrialist secrets from CIA to KGB to Mossad. I mean, this is who they are. This is the leading, probably the, if not a, leading Zionist Edomite family. When you talk about war drums beaten and Israeli warmongering, Crowns are huge in this. For whatever reason, folks, The Crowns have bet the farm, bet Romney. Now Santorum will come in there and try and say and show that he is just as hawkish. Try to show that he would do just as well bombing Iran, but Santorum just doesn't have the pedigree. Santorum hasn't been invited to secret Mossad meetings clear back in 2007. He doesn't have the daughter of Israeli intelligence, Orit Gadish, is support. He doesn't have Michael Chertoff as his key campaign advisor, you see. Doesn't matter that Mitt Romney's a Mormon. What matters is he's big-time insider of the Illuminati. And until America, as Christian America, wakes up to this and realizes who the enemy is, stick a fork in us because America's finished as a free and independent country. You know, my friend, colleague, Tex Mars, his latest expose is not good. Simply called Die, America, Die. Quoted in this video is, again, George Soros' declaration, quote, China will be the leader of the New World Order. American citizens better not resist. Sounds like a threat there, doesn't it, to you? Huh. I thought maybe Tex Mars was a little bit too negative here, giving up too easily, not willing to keep fighting the good fight, and that may be somewhat true, but in light of what's just come out about, again, the irregularities in the caucus of Iowa, what can you say? Die, America, die. We can't even have truly free elections if it's a matter of which Zionist billionaires are determining which candidate wins the Oval Office, it doesn't even matter what political spectrum is part of it, just matters how much is willing to take the orders of the Zionist conspirators behind the scenes, you see. Now, I got to tell you, I feel sorry for Barack Hussein Obama. The guy's been rolled over and trampled on, and now, if he starts talking about this, they'll take him out. They'll assassinate him. Believe you me, I'm not a Barack Hussein Obama fan, but I gotta feel sorry for the man. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the story behind the story. Don't go away. So welcome back to the final segment of today's story behind the story. I've got, a lot of writing to accomplish this weekend, and I don't have a whole lot of time to sleep. Or I guess you can sleep on the other side of the veil. Sleep maybe in the grave. Until then, just keep telling the way it is, folks. There's an amazing story about the total amount of money spent in Iraq and Afghanistan. And yeah, even though, here's what you have to realize, folks, and never forget this. all of this, the coming home of service personnel, servicemen and women from Iraq, is all grandstanding. It's smoke and mirrors. You know, the private contractors, the DynCorp contractors, Blackwater, the private mercenary force, there's still very much control there. The gigantic Iraqi embassy spending billions of dollars there. Again, there was an MSNBC special. I was just flipping channels. I came across it last week. It's an amazing show. It showed how the bank accounts of Saddam Hussein that had been frozen, and when, again, the war in Iraq was at its zenith, when Baghdad had fallen and the airport had been taken, these assets were of Saddam Hussein total over $40 billion. This CNBC special, CNSC, whatever, CNBC special blew me away, because it showed that this $40 billion of assets of Saddam Hussein was literally, there's no cashier's check given, no. The Federal Reserve filled up semi-trucks full of $100 bills. $100 bills. Federal Reserve notes from Saddam Hussein's frozen assets. Now, Saddam Hussein is in jail and is executed, so what happens to the $40 billions of dollars? Shows it going, these semi-trucks going unmarked, don't look like normal trucks, going to the Federal Reserve Depository, the printing press, and here's this hundreds of dollars bills. I mean, flat out semi-loads of them. You can imagine how many $40 billion is. And they're taken on these semi-trucks across the interstate highway to the airport at Washington, D.C. They're loaded onto transport jets. I mean, massive. These jets are carrying billions of hard currency. They land in Iraq, and from there the money just flat out disappears. Nobody knows who got it and where and how. But folks, who's responsible for this? Blackwater, Crown. This is just petty cash to these folks. 40 billions. It flat out disappears. MSNBC special report. I don't know how many people listening to this show happen to catch that report. But I was stunned. I was shocked. You really don't think about the logistics of transporting, $40 billion plus dollars. That's just could have been much more than 40 billion, but the fellow interviewed said, yeah, it was around 40 billion total, all told. Once it got to Iraq, nobody really knows who got it and where. Remember the movie with Liam Neeson called The A-Team? It's just exactly that type of a story. You got people of the U.S. military not knowing at all what Blackwater and these sub-military private contractors who work for people like the Crowns, freeze the assets of Saddam Hussein, of Iraq, freeze these assets. They're supposed to have gone into Iraq's infrastructure there to pay for government operations, to pay for the cost of whatever occupation, and yet nobody has any accountability whatsoever for that $40 billion. It's just gone, boom, evaporated. And then you take into account this report from the Washington Post as to really the amount of money being spent. This is just a fraction. Just a fraction, you see. $20 billion just to air condition the tents and buildings of the military and the private contractors. Yeah, that's right. $20 billion. My colleague, and he's been a guest on this radio show in the past, Chris Ballin, this is amazing what he shows here. He writes, quote, because the scale of the war-for-profit scam is so immense, an example, just a simple example, comparing what the money wasted on the wars could have bought for the American people is kind of helpful. Quote, the U.S. military spends $20 billion each year just to air condition the tents and the bases in Iraq and Afghanistan. That's how much is spent just for the air conditioning units. Well, folks, remember something called Amtrak, the U.S. passenger rail system that's just totally neglected and just run down? $20 billion for just 1 year of air conditioning of the military tents. That would fund, in a major way, fund Amtrak for 20 years. That's more than has been spent on Amtrak passenger rail system in America past 20 years, and it spends it annually. 1 year, just air conditioning the tents. How does that make you feel, ladies and gentlemen? As I said before, I support Ron Paul's rhetoric to stop this insanity. But I don't support the idiots' plans to cut the military to the quick. Yeah, you can't see people. You're missing what Ron Paul is really all about. You really are. Cutting $20 billion in air conditioning, bringing our troops home from these Zionist wars, is a whole lot different than cutting $1 trillion out of our main defense. What you need is, again, complete. You got to roll back the Federal Reserve. It's out of control. It's nuts. Below need it. We need the president to be strong and to cut that debt-ridden program. And we just need to do what nations of Europe have done for centuries, and that's flat out arrest these Edomite spiritors. They are enemies to this country. They're enemies to Christ. They are enemies to Christian ideals of goodness, honor, morality, and safety. They are the absolute worst parasitical bloodsuckers that any society could have amongst them. I don't know what the answer is, folks. This, again, anti-Semitism, hate speech, whatever, I don't care what you call it. It's what it is. These people like George Soros, these people, their fortunes need to be confiscated. Again, it's all part of the change you really can't believe in. And these guys need to be sent in a rocket ship. Just like Superman. Put them into suspended animation, some universe. But we don't need them on this planet. Okay? Just, truth is the truth. Finally, in conclusion, I just want to share with you, just again to show you the mindset of Mitt Romney and these other silver spoon-fed nutcases that we have vying for the Oval Office. Might have been aware of this, folks, but recently Mitt Romney was asked about certain things concerning his fortune. Nobody really knows how much he's worth. Some estimates have him worth $250 million, but that's only what is publicly available. When you see the connections with Bain Capital and Blind Trust in the Cayman Islands, what do you think they call Blind Trust, and why do you think they're in the Cayman Islands? You ever watched that movie, The Firm? Do you think that law firms aren't hired by people like Bain Capital to keep their more powerful funds from any type of public scrutiny? Really, nobody really knows how many billions the Crown family owns. But you see, the very fact that you need a Cayman Islands blind trust tells you who you're dealing with. But in the mindset, they uncovered that, and Romney admitted, I'm not sure what year it was. I think it was 2010. Maybe it was 2009. Doesn't matter. But he charges $42,000 a speech. He runs around the country making these appearances. But, never makes an appearance unless he's paid $42,000. A 2-hour engagement with Golden Tree Asset Management Convention, he paid $68,000. Listen to this, folks. He was paid $374,327 just in 1 year for speaking fees. And he says, well, yes, I got paid, but, quote, not very much. What could Joe McNeil and the Microeffect do with $347,000 a year just to run their radio network? Not very much. Is that not very much, Joe McNeil? Not. Hear that echo? Oh, yeah. And it goes back again to who really is Mitt Romney? Who is Orit Gidash? And who and what is Bain Capital? And Clear Channel. Clear Channel, according to Wikipedia, quote, is an American media conglomerate company headquartered in San Antonio, Texas. It has octopus arms going throughout Texas into Austin and other places. Okay? Was founded in 1972 by Lowry Mays and Red McComb. Was taken private by Bain Capital in a leveraged buyout. leveraged, again, corporate ratership. Clear Channel, owned by Bain Capital. Bain Capital and Clear Channel. The term Clear Channel comes from AM broadcasting, live broadcasting, referring to a channel frequency in which only one station transmits. In U.S. and Canada broadcasting history, Clear Channel or Class 1A stations had exclusive rise to their frequencies throughout most of the continent at night, when AM stations travel very far due to skywave. WOAI in San Antonio, Clear Channel's flagship station, was such a station early stages. Clear Channel, you see, is responsible for all of your conservative radio companies and radio shows. Clear Channel owns part of radio groups in New Zealand and Mexico and Norway and Australia. Get the idea, get the picture. Clear Channel operates and controls the largest syndication network services, Premier Radio Networks. Let me tell you, because I know the story behind the story. When I first started in radio, I was live on an AM station, KSUB Radio in Cedar City, southern Utah. The story behind the story ran for 2 hours, first in the Thursday afternoons, once a week. Our 2-hour format of guests and controversial subjects became quite amazing, because you see, when we broadcasted live, it was tape recorded and tape delayed for the late night crowd from midnight till 2 a.m. And it was fantastically popular. Fantastically popular. Maybe about 8 months after we began the late night broadcasting, we were approached to syndicate. Premier Radio Networks was a syndication service. And I would not agree to the controls of programming. And so after I refused the syndication, because of the controls that would be placed upon my show, a copycat show came out of a little place called Pahrump, Nevada, a few hours drive from Cedar City. A guy named Art Bell began broadcasting in a crappy little place off of Pahrump, Nevada. It became known as Coast to Coast PM. I just laughed. I thought, oh my goodness, they're just copying our format, copying some of our interviews with some of the folks. Starting out, Trump was like, well, they were exposing the Area 51 and UFO craze and phenomenon. And look what's happened. When you don't syndicate, you see, you don't go anywhere. You go through and you can look at the shows syndicated. It's amazing. There truly is. Truly is amazing. Who controls it and where? premier radio networks in their syndication. You're talking about Rush Limbaugh, Sean Hannity. Get the drift. Ditto heads. One of the Illuminati card game cards, Rush Limbaugh's ditto heads. Imagine that. Imagine that. Rush Limbaugh's show, Glenn Beck's program, this radio show, originated again through Clear Channel, the syndication. Yeah. Sean Hannity, America Now with Andy Bean, Coast to Coast. That just really rankles me, because the credible power they exert now, just starting out in a seedy little joint in Pahrump, Nevada. Savage Nation, the Mark Levin Show. Let me tell you, I know for a fact that they controlled content because the contract they wanted me to sign, me and my part, was completely intrusive. Absolutely had to agree to not engage in hate speech, so-called, which is, again, a euphemism for never exposing the Zionist element. Never, ever, ever. So I can promise you, folks, that those that are nationally syndicated, that get all the air time, and we're talking, again, not only people under Clear Channel, but your other Texas-based shows and networks, same deal. They'll never, ever survive by hoping to expose the Edomite agenda. Never will. And we're talking about Bullhorn Jones and our friends at Republic Broadcasting Network. Make no mistake, you go and talk about this type of things, you'll get axed, just like I was axed from Republic Broadcasting Network, even though I was pulling in major high ratings. Oh well, that's the story behind the story. It's Friday. Be aware, ladies and gentlemen. Do your homework. Do your study. Change by exposing, by explaining, sharing with your friends and neighbors the truth. Fighting the war on error is what we can do in this matter. And you have a great weekend. I'll be back on Monday, God willing. Godspeed, with more information, the story behind the story. This has been fun, and hope you've enjoyed it. Have a great weekend.